Whoa, 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 whoa.
What's going on?
Man,
My thing says live.
Yeah, it said that for a second, and it went.
We have to go live again. Just a second. Something is going on here. Well,
mine says live and it's counting.
Really?
All right.
Mine doesn't.
Oh God, don't trust.
Oh yeah, no, it does. Live 24 seconds. Okay, 25.
Yes,
okay, so
27.
let me find my intro. Everything disappeared here. All right, here we go.
So I'm driving home. I came home late last night coming from work, and here on the property, we have a main gate to come into all the other properties, and we make sure to close that gate. And I came upon that gate and it was open. So I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll just close it. So I'm closing the gate off into the distance, maybe south from where I live. I believe the location is called Woodland Valley, and they have this one mesa right in the center of everything. And there was maybe 40, 50 red lights. Just first they were sprawled in one line, and then they were just going in and out, up and down. So I'm tripping out because I'm like, am I really seeing this? So I take out my phone, I record it, but the phone only catches 5, maybe 4 lights floating around, and then they dart up, come back down, and then they just disappear. So I'm like, I call my neighbor and I'm like, bro, do you have a vantage point view of Woodland Valley from your house? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm seeing about 50 lights that are just dancing around up in the mesa. And he's like, oh, bro, that's the UFOs. I was like, wait, what do you mean?
Welcome to St. John's.
Matter of factly, oh yeah.
Well, the orbs in this area in general, you can go out almost every night just outside and see them. I actually have a theory. I think there's kind of like a portal, and it's kind of like they're just, I don't know, you can watch them literally just disappear. And there's a spot where you can drive, and every time you're driving, there's interference with, say, like your Bluetooth. You know, I'm always streaming. And there'll be like an interference where it will just cut out, and it's right where I feel like I see the orbs kind of just disappear. So I don't know. I feel like there's a portal here, and so we see them almost every night.
The truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
Yay.
Hey. You like what's going on around St. John's? This is
It's
where I
crazy.
live.
That is
UFOs, bro.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I want to come to your neighborhood and check it out. It sounds pretty nutty over there.
Good. You know, Matt and Justine, that took the second, the second little clip there. Granny, you're rubbing off on me because here I record, and as we're recording, my mic stops. I had to try to get the mic going again. and then somehow that screwed up the whole recording. So I don't have the really good recording where I interviewed them about some of the things they had. So I created a PowerPoint last minute, but hopefully they will come on. And we've talked about all of us are going to go out and film and see one of these.
That's a good idea.
To get some more, because this area is I think there's something going on here.
It's in Arizona, right? It's near it's near the Four Corners kind of area. Is that kind of where it is?
This is real ancient land here, very ancient. And so we're close to, oh good, we've got Kathy joined us. Let me bring her in.
Awesome.
Another St. John's person. Hi, Kath. And so
hey Kathy, how you doing?
We're close to Zuni land, Hopi land, Navajo Nation. So, and I'm aware of some other things. When I first moved out, I hadn't even moved out here yet. I used to come out and do an archaeology dig out here because that was like one of my things. I would fly in from Texas and go dig, and just not that far from here they called it the Raven Site Ruin, and just a fascinating. And so it was like by the little Colorado River, and woohoo, Kathy!
I know there's a lot going on over there.
It's like an orb. It's like an orb.
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster.
I'm getting seasick.
So anyway, but it was such a cool experience there because you get to learn archaeology and do the actual digging, and then you'd camp out there for like a week or two. And I don't know if I told you guys that. Did I tell you guys the story of the green centipede?
No.
Okay, so you don't know about that. Okay. So anyway, when it would rain, we would go into the office area and have to put together all these shards. There's little chunks of pottery. I've got a bunch of it back here. I can show you what it looks like, but they're old and they're like probably at least 1,200, 1,800 years old. Wow. And so then it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle, and you try to reconstruct the vases and everything from that, and pots and whatever. But I would get bored of that very quickly. And so one of the archaeologists that was there was from England, and his name was Paul. And he goes, "Deborah, are you as bored as I am?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "I think there's another wall." And I thought there was too. Just intuitively, we felt there was another wall on this one side of the like mountainy, hilly thing. And so we go out there, and it's raining, and we've got our pickaxes, and we're knocking dirt off, which really you shouldn't do that when you're doing a dig, but we did. And all of a sudden, we could see the wall, and it would be like this big around, this bright green thing came out with a bright red face.
Oh,
and
wow.
It came out of the crack of this thing, and it was a giant, massive, like prehistoric centipede that went in. Well, Paul was like freaked out, so he grabs his gun, boom,
what?
And shot it, which I wish he didn't. And
why did he shoot it?
And he goes, "That would have killed us," because centipedes can, I guess, be deadly. Some of them.
Yeah,
and
but
this
you don't
one was
have to.
big. I was so mad he did that, but it was like some kind of 80s movie because we're covered like green goo. And it was so creepy.
How big was this thing? How big was it?
I don't know, because he shot it before it came out. But, if its head was this big around, I would guess it was probably a good 3 feet, maybe 4 feet of a centipede.
God.
And it was bright, bright, bright lime green. I'd never. So, and there's some other things that, I am aware of here that I'm not going to talk about publicly, but there's some old, ancient, really old Anasazi kind of things out in this area. Right. So I think that might have something to do with, like Justine was saying, that, she senses there's a portal here. Mm-hmm. And even the old Western writer, Louis L'Amour, he talked about the portals here in one of his stories. And I have experienced weird things. Now, Justine and Matt, here we recorded this lovely video with the two of them. It was so good. And the recording didn't work. So they can't be here tonight because the kids have games and stuff that they have to be at. So we'll just have to suffice with the
The video, yeah.
Presentation thing. I started the video, and by 3 this morning, it's like, oh my God, I can't get this done by on time. I got to go to work. So it's not a video. But the first one, it's very interesting. So what did you guys think about those the orb and the other thing?
Well, can I tell you something that came to mind as soon as I saw them? Denise will know what I'm talking about. I recently did a book by a guy called Chris Bledsoe.
Oh yeah.
Who claimed to have all these visitations that evolved into actually seeing a white lady, he called it, and it's a whole thing. But one of the things that stands out to me is that they had a very difficult time getting it on the record, like videos or camera pictures, because they just wouldn't photograph.
Yes.
And he was eventually told, when we want you to have it on record, we'll let you. And it wasn't a fault of their ability to record it. It was being blocked. So I think it might be hard. Like when he said he saw 50, but then there were
only 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm thinking about getting like some kind of motion camera. I have to look into it, and putting it on the top of my building to pick up things when they go by, because it's a flat surface up there. And then maybe if it's wireless, figure out something to do. I was talking to my neighbor, actually, Kathy's son, and he goes, yeah, that's a good idea, And so all of us are all like looking for these. But, when she was talking about the portal, I had like 20 years ago, I was like into major freak out about where the United States was going. And so it's unfamiliar. And I was so freaked out that it was like, okay, I'm going to live off the grid. And I did all that kind of stuff. Got the 40 acres, and solar wasn't really good back then. And
I thought about it back then too.
All that stuff. But in any event, it was on 40 acres, and the neighbor was telling me that he would see like little like dinosaurs and things coming through, and there were shards all over the place. And it definitely, it seemed like there would be a portal sometimes there, but sometimes not. And so a friend of mine had stayed one night, and I was at work late as usual. And I got back, and she was in the corner of the living room, just like this, and crying and scared half to death. And when I had driven up, I didn't really think about it. It was dark, and there was a cloud like roiling like this. And underneath, it looked almost like you could see metal under there. But I wasn't sure, and it was like 1 a.m, so I thought I'm just seeing things or whatever. And when I came in, Chris, my friend, she was just like, there are scare UFOs. There's something out here. I mean, she was literally terrified. So I got a couple of hours of sleep and drove her down to Sedona the next day. She was too scared to stay there. So, that kind of Emily Berlin is here. So anyway, I kind of thought about this, and so one night I just stood by this bridge where I thought I'd seen like that thing that was like glinting in the clouds. And all of a sudden I felt this presence. I mean, I'm going to sound crazy, but I felt this presence and this being. It was tall and big. I would say a good 14 feet high and big, like almost like the size of what you would imagine a Bigfoot to be. But this was like all telepathic, spiritual. It wasn't like a physical thing. But it was just like I could feel this thing. And I thought, you know what? Most people would just say, go to the light, be gone, Satan, or whatever. And I just telepathically told this thing, I said, I don't know what you are, but I respect you. And then it spoke in this like ye old English kind of thing. And it goes, therefore, I respect you. And it had like this deep like voice that came with it. It was very weird. So anyway, we had like this conversation, and it told me that it was called a salamander.
Oh, and right. That's a fire spirit. Yeah.
And what it does, it guards the portals. And it was telling me that this whole area around here has like several portals that
Mhm.
move around. And so whatever these beings
sense.
are, they move around and they guard these portals so that the really bad stuff can't come through. And it was like, wow, I had never heard of any of this before. And this being
Right.
actually told me to read that Louis L'Amour Western story.
That's
And
funny.
it goes, that way you'll understand what I'm talking about.
What's the name of it?
Haunted Mesa, I think.
Okay. So
And it's
can I
like
ask
the
you a
only,
question?
yeah, but it's the only one where he went into that genre. The rest of it is all like Western
Cowboys.
romance.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's all like that very Western kind of stuff. Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
ask you guys a question? What do you think they want or they're doing?
Depends on who they are.
Right, but like, okay, so what do you think is going on?
I
What
think that the ones here, I feel are good, like what Jose saw and Justine. It almost feels like a protective sort of thing that's out there. There's not a fear thing associated with it. But like whatever that silver thing was that was under the clouds, how it scared my friend so bad, I don't know what that was or why it was there. I mean, I didn't interact with it at all, but she happened to be home and dealt with it. So
Did she ever say anything about why she was so freaked out? Like, did she have an experience, or was it just seeing it, or
I think
she-
she said she died a few years ago. It was like my best friend, and she died. I've had two best friends, die, and I've got one left. She better hang on. But
I don't want to be friends with you.
but it's been a few years. But she was very, very sensitive and
right?
very involved in Buddhism and very artistic, really artistic. And she
Right.
was a school teacher, and she would help like the kids that were supposedly slow. And
Right.
one of them, when George Bush was inaugurated president, George, the son, remember the kid that played the violin at his inauguration?
No.
Anyway, this kid turned out, the schools had told him, oh, you're stupid, you can't do this, you can't do that, whatever. And Chris saw his talent for math and music and nurtured him to the point that he played at a presidential inauguration.
Wow,
So
that's
she
really
was
cool.
very, very beloved. And I know they had like this big honor thing at the state capitol for her, and just a really wonderful person. And but she was sensitive, and she would get panic attacks very easy. And
see.
so whatever this is, it really, really scared her.
I
Really
see.
scared her.
It's
Have you
scared her.
tried to contact her since she died?
Yes. She even came through an app for me.
Through an
Um,
app?
Yeah. Through one
Oh
of
my
those
God.
ghost apps. She came through because she would always go, hello, Deborah. That's how she would say. And it came right through. It came right through in the app. And
I guess so.
Yeah, what was that?
like 3 days before she passed, I was down and her guy, they were, I guess common law husband, whatever. They'd been together for like 30 some years. And so I was with her the last like 2 weeks to help him too. But it was like before she passed, I knew she was going to go because we would always drink wine and smoke cigarettes out on the back porch. That was our thing.
Right.
And
Right.
so anyway, I was just out, had to take a break. It's so exhausting when somebody's about to pass because it's like you're up all night, not
Right.
knowing if you're going to roll off the bed or
Yeah.
whatever. And she was like going in and out of consciousness. And
You can't
Wow.
relax.
so, I was really tired. And so I was out, and all of a sudden I heard her. Now her body was still alive then. And she used to whistle, and she was kind of like Lily Tomlin in a way, something sort of like her. And I could hear her whistling and saying, "Oh, it's time for wine." So I went in. I thought, "Oh my God, did she like come out of this?" Because she had pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
And no, she was still like down, but I heard her as clear as could be. But I knew her spirit had left at that point.
Right.
And so I just poured a glass of wine for her and one for me, and went out and lit a cigarette for both of us. And then
Wow.
she then she left, you know, and then she was around later. The cat was aware of her being there when she passed, and she was very in tune with the Buddhists in Tibet, and so they were doing a ceremony with her, and so Gary, her guy, could hear them drumming and doing the whole thing as she was leaving it, and he was hearing it, and they were in Tibet doing that. So she was very special, very special. But you know, the orb that Justine showed in that thing, it reminds me, I've seen those too a lot out in this area. And they almost like illuminate the mountain ridges. And then all of a sudden they start coming up. Now, what I've seen of them, like a ton of them, like what Jose saw. And they're like white and they go through. Have you guys seen, they've seen those at Skinwalker Ranch too. So
yeah, I've seen that show. Are they kind of, have you ever heard of the Marfa lights? I've never seen them, but are there any, is there stuff like that in the area too? Like the Marfa lights?
No,
it's different.
What's the word you're saying?
The Marfa lights. Marfa, Texas. Texas.
No.
Those lights that, it's.
But
I don't know what that is.
You know where they see orbs coming up like that and spinning around and stuff is overcropped circles.
Yeah, true. Yeah, not so many of them though. Usually it's like one of them.
Oh yeah, no. I did a book and it was just absolutely incredible. I think it was Linda Moulton Howe did a big.
Yeah, Linda Moulton. No, yeah. But usually it's not like hundreds of them. It's usually like one is seen doing the, and then all of a sudden it shows up the next day.
You're very greedy. Who's talking about hundreds?
Well, because that's what they're talking about. No, because Deborah, like what they're seeing is that one guy said he saw how many of them did he say that?
40 to 50.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's
and those
weird.
were red. And I got to do AI analysis on that one too, and it's on the Cosmic Fold net. And I did some that I'll share tonight on Justine's. And now, have you got, this is another thing that I've only experienced out here, and I've experienced it 2 times. It is like a really bright LED light, real bright white, really super, like the ones I've got like in here, like if you intensified that. The first time I experienced that, it was on that acreage, and I don't know, I heard this like loud boom thing, and I thought, oh my gosh, the propane tank blew up. And it was like the whole place was just filled with this like white. And so I went out and it was so bright, it was almost like blinding. And I stood in this and I could see the propane tank had like these glittery things going all over it. And I was glittering from whatever this was.
Oh my God.
And then it just silently passed. And it was just like, and I could see it pass. It was like this huge sheet.
It was just a light. It wasn't anything else, just a light.
It was like a big sheet of it. Like that was probably like 4 or 5 miles long. And it just went through this thing. And then what are you saying, Granny? Did that remind you of something?
Yeah. You said the word sheet. I've told this story before somewhere, but it bears repeating because it's weird. I don't go outside a lot. You know, I'm not likely to encounter anything in the forest. I avoid the forest. But about a summer or so ago, there were rumors we were going to be able to see the northern lights. So I put a camp chair outside and sat in the driveway late at night to watch. And the northern lights, we saw them, but we didn't realize that's what we were seeing. It's not dramatic.
Yeah, they're not as dramatic as you think. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But we saw a really weird thing, and neither one of us could explain it. So we're looking up at the northern sky, and over my neighbor's house, so barely above the roof line, comes this large white thing that looks like a sheet of muslin fluttering like this, and it flies horizontally, and it moves, and there's no wind, you know.
Yeah.
And it went right past us, and we looked, it was like Casper, you know.
Wow.
And we looked at each other. Now it wasn't filled, it was just it was like a piece of muslin, and it fluttered slowly. It was in no hurry, and it went past us, and both of us were stunned. We could not figure what it was. At first I thought, oh, is that a snowy owl or something, you know, which rare once in a while you'll see them here in town. No, this was no owl. This was a big sheet of muslin flying.
Was there light? Was there light emanating from it, or
that's the difference? There was no light emanating from it, but I feel like it was associated with the northern lights in some way.
It might have been. Might have been.
I don't think it wasn't a northern light phenomenon, because since then we've seen them a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And no, they were like two different things, but they were happening simultaneously. You know what it reminded me of? It the same as people will see Sasquatch, birds and lights in the forest,
right,
and a UFO in the sky all at the same time. That's kind of what I got from it. Yeah. And it just floated away and went on up the street.
Did it like have a mind of its own kind of thing, or out?
Oh yeah, it was going where it wanted to go. The air was completely still. It was a summer evening, very still, nothing going on.
Weird.
Yeah, this thing I saw, it didn't flutter or anything. It was just like
a light, just like a light.
Yeah, just
like a screen. Yeah. No, this was
and it was solid light, so you couldn't like see through it or anything. It was pure, that bright. And then I saw it the second time out in this area, and somebody else saw it too. And it just like, it's really amazing. And you're speechless when it happens.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, because it's so weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that light, I mean, that you saw, what was really long? You said it was like it was super long.
Oh, I'd say at least 4 miles.
So
how
everything in that light was illuminated by it, kind of in the same way.
Wow.
Yeah.
How fast was it going?
Like, now I don't know how wide it was, but by long, I'm like this.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it had to be, the depth of it had to be, I mean, it completely enveloped me, whatever it was. So it was, to be at least that. Maybe it was 2 feet, 3 feet. I don't know. And then it went up as high as you could see. You couldn't see the source of whatever this was.
Oh,
and it's really, really bright. I mean,
it's probably a spaceship thing. Don't you think so? I mean, it's probably.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Maybe it was because,
it had to be.
Because you couldn't see the source of it. But yeah, I honestly
is that kind of bright light like that? I have seen not white light like that, but I've seen blue light like that. You know what I mean? Where it just seems like it comes out of nowhere. And usually there would be like a vibration kind of feeling of it too. Like, I feel like you're vibrating. It's like vibrating you. And it definitely was connected to abduction kind of experiences. Almost every time I'd have a missing time or abduction experience, that would be the thing I remember, would be the blue light. But it's so bright and so cold that it sounds similar. Yeah, like a cold light. It sounds similar to what you're describing, but different. Like what you're seeing is maybe some mothership, like scanning or something like that, the area or something like that.
And the reason I brought that up is, what if, like the thing that Justine saw, and when you see some of the AI things on the slideshow, it's very interesting what we came up with. But I'm wondering if those are like, because you see them, they kind of like go up and down. If that like white screen thing is some sort of a, like from a mothership that you can't see because it's too bright.
Yes, probably so. And so far up, you can't see.
They have something to do with that somehow.
I think so. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, I know that sounds like a really weird thing. Oh, that's the only thing that makes sense, but it really is the only thing that makes sense. I mean, where else would it be coming from? It's not a natural phenomenon. You know what I mean?
And it didn't burn my skin. Yeah, I've met him. He's from this area.
Then he talked about this beam, and now this is different, I know, not the same description, but the same idea of this powerful beam.
But that's right. But the beam of light, and that my grandmother had an experience that she talked about all the time, which was verified by her sister, who also said it did happen. Her and her 2 sisters were at nighttime, they were in their bedroom, and all of a sudden this beam of intense, like that bright, cold light in their room just hit their room, and their toys started moving on their own. The toys started moving. and they didn't know what was going on, like, but they got scared. And I had a friend who had a similar experience where she was in a room with a friend, and all of a sudden a beam of white light like that hit the room, and she said her and her friend got under the covers, and the light was so intense that you could see through it, see through the covers into the room. So I don't know that phenomenon. I think my grandmother had a Men in Black experience too. That she didn't call it that, but it certainly was a Men in Black experience with her family. And I think they were probably having experiences, so she didn't put it in that context, but it is listening to the stories and thinking about them. They're definitely related to the UFO phenomenon. And this friend of mine, her dad was obsessed with aliens and was terrified of them. He used to have a gun in his house that he was so paranoid. Like, I'm going to shoot them. He was
a lot of good that would.
So, and he had experiences, and she had all kinds of weird experiences. And so to me, that light phenomenon is totally connected to the UFO phenomenon. It's very much so connected to it. Yeah.
But I truly believe that all of these phenomena are in a broad sense connected.
Interconnected. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you just have one yourself, didn't you, Helen?
I did.
Ago?
Let's hear about it.
Well, do you mean what I saw in the sky?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was so weird. I got up, I'm of a certain age. I got up about 2-3 o'clock in the morning to go pee, and my bathroom window, I live in an old house, big windows. My bathroom window looks out to the south. We've lived here for 45 years. I recognize what should be in the sky and what shouldn't.
Sure.
I might not be able to see it. I certainly can't identify it, but I know when something's not right? So I noticed this multicolored thing, more than twinkling, just, really colors like this. And I got my binoculars.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. And it was like you took a long string of those old-fashioned Christmas lights that are shaped like teardrops, primary colors, including white and yellow.
Yes.
And you clumped them together.
Yes, I saw the same exact fucking thing. Like when I was 10 years old. I saw that exact same thing.
Sometimes
it's so weird.
Sometimes they were kind of an elongated vertical clump, and
so
then
they were
all
changing.
of a sudden they changed.
It was changing.
Yeah,
right.
Like that.
It was changing.
And I watched it for over half an hour, and then I got tired. And I thought,
half an hour? That's a long time.
Just a UFO.
Well, but it is kind of gets mundane sometimes when something hangs around for a long time like that.
Well, they
like,
didn't communicate with me. They didn't do anything. They just twinkled, and it was not.
Do you think it had like a lot of elements, like like what Jose saw with the 40 or 50 of these, and do you think it was just like one thing, or do you think that there were a bunch of them that had joined together?
It seemed like one thing with the lights.
Kathy, can you adjust your sound? I can't. There's a loud sound coming out of there.
Weird.
They weren't in any particular pattern.
Oh, there she is.
Or
there's a sound coming out of there.
That's weird, huh? It's a weird sound.
Hey, you guys, can you hear me?
Can hear you, but it sounds like you're on like Mars. Yeah.
There's some kind of a sound. Can you adjust your sound or something?
It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
We cannot see you, and I'm mostly.
Well, just raise your hand when you want to say something. I'm going to mute you until then, because I'll let Helen finish her story, because I can't hear anything with this sound.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you see her?
Okay. I can see her. Yeah, I can see her.
I see just a black.
Oh no, she just unmuted.
Yeah, she just unmuted it. Now there's that sound again.
There we
go. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, there was no.
Kathy, let Helen finish her story, and then you can talk.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. There was no organization to it. It wasn't like there was a pattern of repeating colors. It was just a clump, and they all moved. Oh, there you are. and it was just the strangest thing I've seen in a long
That's,
time.
you know what, that the first UFO I ever saw was when I was 10. And that's basically what it looked. It didn't change, but it was like a big clump of multicolored lights just floating really, really so slowly that when you think, I mean, now as an adult, you go, well, that would fall out of the sky if it was going, it was going so slow. It was like, it's just so, it was so weird. Yeah.
You know, I as a child, I had this memory, and I didn't know whether to identify it as a memory or a dream or what a reality. You know, I was with my grandmother in this, I'll call it a memory, and we were standing on a small rise, like a hillock or something, looking out at a panorama of a valley below us. It was in Ireland, in my memory, and she pointed way in the distance. There was this clump of colored lights.
Oh wow, that's
and I finally made the association recently. But there's this clump of colored lights, and I was looking at it, and I was thinking, and I was in a stroller, so I must have been really young, thinking that it was maybe like a fair, you know, fair rides, or they had that sense of festivity way in the distance, and no words that I remember were exchanged. And the similarity is kind of uncanny.
Yeah, that is really weird. That's very weird.
Kathy, I'll let you tell your story now. I keep muting you because there's a sound that
it's a weird sound. It sounds like an alien sound.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't think you can.
No, we can hear you now. I'm muting you because of the background noise.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Because it keeps going off and on. It keeps going off and on.
That's because I'm turning it off.
I don't know what's going on.
No, okay. I've been turning it off because there's so much background noise. I can't hear anyone.
Was that a bottle of bourbon?
My camera's too hot too, but all right. Go ahead, guys. Go on and talk. If I have anything to say, I will.
Okay. Raise your hand if
you do.
Okay. Okay.
I just been trying to get on for like a week.
There she goes.
Let's go.
Yeah, there's some kind of technical problems going on there, Kathy. I don't know what's going on there. Oh, here we go.
So this is St. John's, the metropolis where we live.
Wow.
And this guy, the reason I took that picture is like when he's on the highway, it's like this is how you learn patience because it's going like 20 miles an hour and you're all having to follow him.
Very from the other side.
And so anyway, that's St. John. So she saw this March 23rd. So that would be what? Sunday night.
3 days ago. Yeah.
And was it Monday? Tuesday, yesterday, we had a huge power outage and phone outage and everything had gone out. And I wake up just ever since I had COVID, I just wake up at 4. I just do. So that's what I do, meditations and stuff. And it's a good time to do it because the world is still and it's quiet. And so I got up to do my thing. And just as I'm walking, to sit down and start meditating, all the power it got black. And that shimmery stuff was around again. Like the stars were in here. And I went outside and I looked, and then it only lasted like maybe half a minute at the most. And then they went, and then it was just pitch black, everything. And then I guess Verizon went down, our phone providers went down. So there's a part of me that wonders if what Justine experienced, because, and apparently it hit a big piece of Arizona, whatever this was.
What do you think? So there was, what did Justine see on Sunday?
The video you saw at the very beginning. Yeah, the orb thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
doesn't she see those all the time though? Doesn't she see those all the time or wrong?
Yeah. But this is the first one she was able to get on film. So I think it was probably more intense. So somehow or another, those are connected to solar flares in a way. But that's just a hypothesis of mine.
Right.
All right. Some of these videos, I'm not sure if they turned slides. StreamYard is now compressing stuff, so they look pixelated. But okay, So her entire video clip was 19 seconds. And to be able to catch what was going on, I slowed it down to 28 minutes. So that is, and then I started, yes, this, I have put so many hours into this. And so then I had the edge detection, the heat detection, all that kind of stuff that I do. So what this shows is like in the first 5 seconds, at first when you see it, it's like, oh, that's just like one thing.
Mhm.
But then when you slow it down to that intensity, you could see it's breaking off into two, just like in the first, like, so AI called this morphing. And so AI, when it's doing its heat detection, they're not lime green, you know, to the eye. It's from its heat detection where it was trying to figure out what was going on, and it was trying to figure out the trail. So I blew these up, but they don't look good on here. They look great on mine at home, but you could kind of see how it moves around.
Right.
Oops. So then just within seconds of this, or not even within probably 1 second of the first ones I showed you, look at how now you've got like three. There's like, it splits off into, and how it's moving around. And then it starts getting brighter and brighter at that point. And you would never see that unless you slowed it down to this level.
Right.
That's the shape of the lights I saw. They were.
Oh, really? I bet you saw something.
Elongated, and they were always moving, but in random directions, not synchronous. And then they'd suddenly be horizontal, and there was just this sort of 3D movement and spinning. It was really weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
I think you experienced something similar to what Justine did. That's why I asked if it was just like one thing or if you thought there were a few of them in there, because this is very interesting. So, you know, so when it says clips 17 and 18, we're only talking like 5-6 seconds, because I'm slowing down 19 seconds because it turned into 17 different clips, or no, 27. That was a lie. So, all right, this didn't turn out really good. Looks really good on my computer. But by the time we get into 25, it just starts concentrating the light and then exploding out. So this is what it did at that stage. So it did the edge detection thing where it like got brighter and brighter, and the shape of it is very interesting to me. And then you see like those white lines in the background is apparently other movement that's going on, which makes me think there's quite a few of these. And
more than one.
Yeah. And probably just 1, 2, or 3 of them were visible on her camera.
Right.
Just like Jose, you know, he sees 50 of them and only 4 come out. But there's a lot of movement that's going on even behind this. So, kind of interesting.
What the
Then
heck
it jumps up, and look at how its movement goes there, and it's like it's just very strange what it was doing there.
Yeah, it is weird.
All right, so then this is by we get to 26 or 27 towards the end. It says that there's 3 distinct energy concentrations where it's morphing. And then right after it did this like intense light morph thing, then it started to dissolve, but it did not collapse on itself. That was what was really weird about it. So it detected where these green circles are, like more energy things coming out of this thing. That, you know, it's so faint on the camera, you can't pick it up. But like you see the line and the movement. So, you know, there's got to be at least 5, 6 of these just going on in the one thing that she saw. So I think there's probably more going on that. And so AI says there's no way this came from like a single light source. You know, I used Google's Gemini AI and it just like 1 second said, oh, those are drones. There's no way those are drones. I like OpenAI because it'll work with you on images and video and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's very time consuming because you have to keep slowing it down and pulling frames, but it will at least analyze it.
Well, did you see what it said? It said that it had non-random dissolution, when it disappeared, that means it was a planned disappearance. It wasn't
like going
just,
in on itself.
Yeah, not like a spark kind of just dying out. This was something that was going in on itself. Very weird.
You know,
Very
and
weird.
Matt, Justine's husband, had mentioned that, you know, you notice when there's a whole bunch of it, all of a sudden you start seeing planes like trying to drive, you know, fly through that area.
Oh.
And so I wonder if that's why they do this collapse thing, you know, to
maybe.
avoid detection. You know, because this is very hard to detect any of this. But the shape is just fascinating to me, how it's doing this. So, all right.
Whoa.
So, whoops. A skeptical point, that's just a stock photo. But the skeptics would say, you know, they're bugs, they're drones, it's dust, they're flashlight beams, you know, just to say that. But AI, after going through, and on my computer, there are probably 500 images. I just pulled a few. That's how long this took to like pull frame by frame and do all this.
Wow.
But it looked at all of those. And it said there is no way that the behavior of these things would be like a bug or a drone or any of that.
Really?
Right.
And
that's that makes sense.
And then
you
your
can check.
Is this
No, this no. Oh, where she saw him? Yeah. But no, that image is just a stock photo because I didn't have time to look for something. I just did
busy
that
neighborhood.
Yeah. All right. And so what AI says, it might be plasma. And that's your expertise, isn't it, Denise, about plasma?
Oh, so I don't think that's true. I read a book on it. Yeah, me and Helen we read the book and kind of talked about it. But
what is your hypothesis? I haven't finished the book.
I'm always talking about plasma physics.
She talks about it a lot more than I do. I read about it. Then I have somebody in my astrology class who's a physicist, who's a quantum physicist, and I had her read the book, and she's like, I don't know about that. She wasn't 100% sold on it. She said the science wasn't that great he didn't really do a great job of really sourcing everything. It was her take on it. So I kind of was like, okay. You know.
Well, they don't agree with each other. You know, it's not a consensus opinion.
No, it's not. No, but you know, it's an interesting idea. I kind of agreed with her on that. Plasma, his idea that plasma is maybe like a proto, like it's sort of related to the soul or something. Her feeling was like, well, no, it's not. The soul is probably beyond space time, not a physical construct.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that's probably true.
Now, are you talking about the new science of heaven?
Yeah, the new science of heaven.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Encounter with Diane Pasulka because she talks about it a bit.
Not too much though. She doesn't talk about it that much. Yeah. Yeah, she has a little bit of it in there, but that's not her specialty either. She's more of a
but the people she
scholar.
talked to people, you know, and Stefan Schwartz talks a bit about it too. There's this weird overlap, I guess, Venn diagram with an agreeing area. Plasma physicists, quantum physicists, theologians.
I wouldn't say that there is a consensus though. And that is important.
But an overlap of ideas.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Well, the guy who wrote that A New Science of Heaven, which I think is a really interesting book, he's not a scientist.
No, that's Robert Temple.
He's not. Yeah. And he's taking a lot of liberties with the science because scientists don't talk to one another. They don't have an overarching sort of like, you know, you're doing one thing in one field, this person, and they don't put all those pieces together, which he does because he's kind of looking at the big picture, which I thought was really interesting. Some of the conclusions he came to, you know, people can be skeptical about whether he's taking the right approach or not. But I think he has a lot of interesting points in there. I like that book a lot.
I like the fact that he's willing to entertain ideas that other people, they won't even go there, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so AI thinks these things could be plasma, ball lightning, earth lights. But what's interesting, we'll get into the interview thing though about how high they go.
But you know what? If it is ball lightning or plasma, that's just as weird as a UFO. You know what I mean? Because it's very weird, really, really weird. I mean, it's not normal. That's actually, in that book, A New Signs of Heaven, he was talking about ball lightning, and it is really strange. It is kind of like a plasma thing. But if you guys had if we had a huge solar flare and you guys are in a, it could potentially be, some kind of plasma. And the thing is, in that book, there is talk about ball lightning that literally looks like it has its own. It seems like the living being. It's like
exactly
it has a consciousness and is doing all these really weird things.
Yeah.
So it's possible it could be that, but that would not be any less weird than if it was a UFO. In my opinion.
So, all right, that's Matt and Justine. I'm so mad that their interview didn't record because it would have been such a good. It was really, Justine's so good about making sure the camera lighting is perfect, and they were all. Anyway, they've got a really cute, wonderful family. They're really good people. So
she reminds me of somebody.
They both look like the character. They both look like actors on the comedians on Saturday Night Live a little bit, or like.
Well, they're watching, so don't talk too much. So
no, they're cute. They're both. He looks kind of like that Mikey Day, and she looks a little bit like.
Yeah, he does.
She looks a little bit kind of like, Amy Schumer, but better looking. No offense to Amy Schumer. A little bit like her, and also kind of a little bit like that other comedian,
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig, a little bit. And she's, they're both very cute.
But no, she looks familiar to me, like somebody I know, not somebody.
Yeah. On the show before, maybe that's why.
Yeah, she was on the show before. Yeah, no, yeah, but they both, they both kind of like comedians. Yeah.
Matt was saying that the orbs seem to come like in the same area, and but it'll rise even up to like 10,000 feet, and they seem to come like north of the town area here,
the direction of the Zuni,
which is basically uninhabited. Now, his cousin, apparently, who's an engineer, has had like communication with these things, and one actually came and landed near him. So,
communication in what way? What does that mean?
What?
I want to get him on the show. So, everybody, Matt's cousin, come on the show.
Yeah, come on the show. So what does that mean by communication? Did he have like a download experience?
I can't speak for somebody. I don't know. He'd have to tell.
You don't know. You just heard that he had some. That's what he said.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's my knowledge.
Yeah, that is. I want to hear about that.
All right. So this is by the very end. You can see the light. Like, well, my cursor probably doesn't show, but way on the very bottom part, you see this little. That's when the thing ended. So after 27 clips, about 16 hours of my time, the orb, what AI concluded was that it retained its structure during the motion. The brightness, lobes, and fades appear deliberate. The behavior is not explained by conventional means, and as the fading orb, it says it's subtle, but you can clearly see the structural remnants of the orb as it dissipates. It shows in the final phase that it's not disappearing chaotically. So then it took the energy of what it was doing through this and just kind of the layered as it's like, and you can see the thing way at the end, at the bottom, like where it was. And then those three green circles are like more heat signatures as it's doing that. So I have no idea what that means, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
It says that it illustrates that with this layered disappearance, that means it's a good case for morphing plasma theory. So
well, you know what it means. It means we have a lot to learn.
Exactly. It means I don't know anything. So then I took a quick snapshot of that because I had heard, it was like Sunday or something. I had heard, there's this huge, we don't have cable TV out here at all. But so if I watch anything, there's no cable. We don't have like street lights. We're out in the middle of nowhere. And so where I get my news basically is YouTube or whatever I read. And there were like a bunch of things coming out. There's this huge solar storm. So that happened on, what day is today? Wednesday? That happened yesterday. And so they saw this on Sunday night, but we're still kind of like in the mix of a solar storm going on right now. And they say it will affect, it could affect electronics and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So I brought that up with AI, and I'm going to start a database to see if I can start correlating like major sightings in areas with solar storms that are going on.
That's a good idea.
To this.
There might be.
What AI also said that doesn't show up on the slide thing is, the inverse could be true too, that the solar storms could even be affecting us as bags of electronic water, basically, to be able to perceive things better. So I'm curious if you guys have heightened psychic or that kind of stuff during these solar storms.
I don't know when there's a solar storm.
No, I haven't noticed that myself. No, not really.
I'm curious about it. So anyway.
Can I ask you something, Deborah?
Yeah.
Do you know, you may not know this because it might not have interested you much, but do you know if there's local lore, mythology about the purpose or origins of this sort of phenomenon?
They're talked about kind of. I would have to research it more, but yeah, I'm definitely into like the interest in that stuff. I think I mentioned on another show that I lived in this town called Cave Creek that's north of Phoenix. And at that time, it was always an artist, my kind of place. And now it's like little commercial Scottsdale. But when I lived there, it was really cool. And somebody had invited a friend of a friend to go on this hike on their private property through a canyon through there. So we're going, and there was like probably 3 miles worth of cliffs through the canyon. And there were all kinds of space beings through there and UFOs, all kinds of that kind of thing in there, as well as the animals, and everything was headed east. And
I think I missed something. Did you understand what she was saying, Helen? Or
it's garbled in parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you slightly move, your microphone's not picking you up well.
Yeah, I didn't move.
That's better. Talk down there. That was good.
That's what happened during the solar thing. And so anyway, in this canyon with all these UFOs, aliens, things in the petroglyphs, and you see that in the petroglyphs up here too.
Yeah.
Like Jose, the person, in the beginning thing, he sent me a picture. On his land is a picture, a petroglyph, and then another figure. And he's had dreams where he's gone through that and seen and got lost in time through there to the point where he saw his son grow up. And then they made it back through the portal. Somebody else was telling, it may have been Matt and Justine. They know of somebody that lives out here, and the husband would disappear for days on end because he would go through a similar with the same like petroglyphs and image and disappear through this portal and be gone for days. And so that kind of folklore is around all over. And as far as these lights and stuff, I know when I had done a sweat lodge with a traditional native, not these white people sweat lodges. And it was headed by this woman named Thunder Woman. And she was Cherokee. And so everybody, wants to go first to this. I was living in Texas at the time, and they all got like The Apprentice. And I was just like, oh, you guys go first. So I just, why rush? And so there were only a small handful of us left by like 11 at night. And we got to have Thunder Woman. All the rest had The Apprentices. And I tell you what, this woman was it was insane. And so she's doing that. It's getting hotter and hotter in there. And those blue lights you talked about, Denise, they were like flying around. Oh, this was Sue, not Cherokee. She was Sue. And she told me I had to sit on her left side And then she goes, speak the language. And I could speak perfect Sioux. I have no idea how I did that. And so I was doing my thing with her. And then these lights and that fire just shot up in there.
Wow.
And, I mean, this was the most powerful thing I've ever experienced in my life. So anyway, when it was over, and we were doing it for world peace and enlightenment and all that kind of stuff. When we came out, I have never had this experience before or since, but they say when you become at one with the universe, I had that feeling that night after that sweat lodge, because coming out, it was like I was one with the stars. I don't even know how to explain it. It is beyond any kind of words. And this incredible love and feeling and connection to everything. And but it's interesting you talk about that, Denise, with the bright blue lights, because those were, she was calling those in with the drum and the heat and that sweat lodge. And you know, and I've seen people, you know, white people try to conduct a sweat lodge. They don't know what they're doing. They don't.
It's not
they don't
the same.
Have the training, the culture, the
right. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why, like, for me, that's why I went the traditional kind of, you know, like European shamanic traditions, because that's what you can have. Yeah, that's what I am, and that's what, you know, the people I studied from would know. You know what I mean? Not they were not native people, so I mean, you know, every
but when
culture.
you're invited like this to go,
oh no, I would go to that in a heartbeat. I'm not.
Awesome.
I mean, that's awesome. But I'm just saying, a lot of people, I think, don't really. There's shamanic traditions across every culture has a shamanic tradition. You know, and they're all like that. They're all the same, really. I mean, my experience. I mean, the stuff I saw happen was pretty insane. Was very insane as well. Different, but doing a ritual where we literally saw a black panther, like a physical one, in the middle of a city, and like the person was healed from all kinds of illnesses, but the next day in the hospital, and our voices split into thirds, like Yodo monks when we were doing this healing thing. It was weird, crazy stuff, you know. But I think, you know, if you go deep enough into that kind of mystical space, it doesn't really matter what entry point you have, as long as you really commit to it. You know what I mean? And just go for it. But a lot of people, I think, a lot of the, like you said, a lot of the white people sort of, when they start transposing somebody else's culture, they don't really understand that about it, you know.
Right.
They don't understand how to.
There's an energetic.
Very different. Yes. Very different.
I'll tell you, I had a really odd experience in Ireland at Newgrange. Now, believe it or not, I didn't know.
Are you Irish?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me that the other day, and I said, you know, I was born in Ireland. They said, oh, you were? Like, you know, totally shocked.
That's funny.
We went.
Kathy, if you want to join in, raise your hand. I'll unmute you.
So we went to Newgrange just to see it, and believe it or not, I really didn't know anything about it. I was not into anything like this. This is about 2014. It was before the Great Awakening, you know. And so we went to the presentation that was done by an archaeologist, and he led a small group of people into one of the mounds. And you know, it's supposed to be lit up at a certain point in the year. I think it's the solstice. I'm not entirely sure. You can see I'm really into it, right? So we went into it, and it was a very odd experience, because it's this passage that narrows and narrows and narrows. And I was thinking, God, I'm glad I didn't have that dessert last night, because it was getting kind of scary, right? But it merges into a round empty space deep in the belly of this mound. And they have it all set up for tourists.
Well, you know, besides the Celtic people, the native people also had mounds like that too.
Right. There's something about going into the earth.
And also the Greeks did that too. They went into the caves. There is like
I'm sorry to interrupt here, but I need to say it while I'm getting it.
Yeah.
Do you remember a past life of being like a scribe in a religious order?
Who, me?
Yes.
I
When
don't
you were
remember
saying that, I just saw it as clear as could be, and I don't usually get that. So that's why. What do you pick up, Denise?
I could see that. It makes sense. It
Yeah,
really
yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I could feel as you were saying that. I saw you like with this torch going through this area, but you were a scribe, and it was like hidden, secret kind of stuff.
You know, that
because
doesn't
they didn't
doesn't
have a
surprise me.
printing
That
press.
would
You
make
had
sense.
you
Yeah.
had to like write somebody else's, and you were like this cute little man. That's what I saw. It
No,
was
I
very
believe you.
weird. I don't see that very often. So
I
sorry
mean,
to interrupt, but I
No,
didn't
no,
want
no,
to
no,
do
no,
that.
no. I think it actually sounds right. I've often wondered if I was maybe a monk, you know, that did the illuminated manuscripts, because I also in the same trip made a sacred pilgrimage to the Book of Kells. And that
Oh,
was
wow.
a transcendent moment for me. I was in tears. It's
Wow.
bizarre. So we went into this
Interesting.
thing, and they have it all set up to, you know, to entertain the tourists. I had no expectations because I really hadn't paid attention to the history of it. I was just having a good time on vacation. They turned off all the lights, and I've never seen a darkness as dense as that darkness was.
Oh.
When you described your experience, I had something similar. It wasn't as intense. I didn't see God. I just had this extreme emotional reaction. I don't know what else to call it. It was a moment of transcendence. I've never experienced that before. When it was all over and we went outside, I said to my husband, I was creeped out. I said, did you feel that? And he looked at me like I was insane, you know. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, oh, no, never mind.
Well, that's why they do. That's why the mystery schools, that's why they go into the depths. I mean, it's a metaphorical, psychological kind of going into the unconscious and kind of going into
acting
the deepest. Right. It's a kind of like going back to the mother, but you know, in reverse. I have to say, from my experience being involved in multiple different types of hermetic type of and shamanic type of groups, that the ones that are really powerful are the matriarchal or the goddess based ones, not the male ones.
Yeah.
I was involved in both a shamanic or Celtic coven, traditional Celtic coven, ironic, right? And I was also in this, I was in this hermetic organization that was related to the Golden Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like going to church. It was so boring and nothing really happened. It was like a lot of pomp and circumstance and calling the angels. I mean, you could feel it sometimes, you know, I mean, but it wasn't really, it wasn't visceral. It was not visceral.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not the same. So if you really want a really, truly transcendent, intense experience, get involved with a goddess-based shamanic.
I felt like I would not have had the vocabulary for it at the time, but in retrospect, I felt I had connected to some source of energy that was familiar.
Yeah, it was a goddess.
Sense of recognition, a sense of power.
Yes.
Something significant. I really could not have defined it. I can't even define it now. But now I recognize it. At the time, I was just like, oh, God.
Yeah, you just felt it.
Yeah, and it's far beyond the like physical being that you're not even aware of being a physical being. And to me, it's like that was the epitome of what you try to do when you meditate or whatever. I haven't ever had anything like that.
Yeah.
But I've never had it since. And then even my near-death experiences weren't that cool. It was really awesome.
Profound, right?
I was going to say the other thing I think is kind of interesting is there's a book called The Andreessen Affair, which is all about Betty Andreessen.
Yeah.
And there is I don't go into all of it, but in the book, there is a sentence that is actually in ancient Gaelic, and it's in Gaelic, and it was spoken by the aliens. And the other thing I want to say, so that's interesting, the little people thing, the Gaelic thing, they have this sort of that always stuck with me because it was so weird. Why did they speak in Gaelic? And she didn't know Gaelic. She just said it she just mouthed it in phonetically, and they figured it out that it was Gaelic, and it was the people of the northern tribes have lost their way or something like that. It was really creepy. And the other thing that was really weird about it was, I don't even know where I found this information. Maybe it was a download, but I'm pretty certain I read it somewhere in a book. When talking to like the aliens and their spiritual beliefs, they believe the creator, which they say they have a direct relationship with, is feminine, not masculine. And they're very like firm on that the creative force of the universe is a feminine force, not a masculine one. And they say you can worship it however you want. But in my experience, if you go the feminine route, the power and the intensity is so much more extreme than when you turn it into a god, like a male god. It's like 2 steps removed from the power.
Well, the ancient Hermetic philosophy, not way past before the Golden Dawn, they actually believe that same sense of that dualism of male and female.
Yeah.
The female was all creative. The male was action. The female was totally the creative part. So yeah, you're right. Of course.
Well, I'm going to close out the slideshow while we talk, but
okay,
this is a conclusion from, and then I'll post the full report and all of its stuff on the Cosmic Fold Net forum. But it says, not a drone, not mechanical flight pattern, no lights, no sound, not dust, not a lens flare, not water droplets. It says everything defies conventional explanation. So the speculation is it plasma-based, an intelligent light, interdimensional, or an unknown natural phenomena. So in other words, AI was stumped. Congratulations, Justine. Thank you for sharing that.
This is fabulous.
So, that was so nice. I was so thrilled. It just made my Monday when she sent that. So,
what did I miss something? You mean when AI said that? No, okay.
No,
you said
when my mic must be shorting out. When Justine sent that little video clip.
Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Yes, totally. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I was Kathy has not got to say anything. She has been sitting there patiently.
Yeah, you ready there, Kathy? I'm gonna unmute you now. Will it unmute?
You're muted, and I can only see your icon.
There she is.
My computer sits up higher than my chair.
You can move it down like that if you want.
No, it's as down as it goes.
Okay.
Taller chair.
What? Look at me. I'm trying to see over there.
I know.
Yeah, like, oh, where are you?
There I am.
There you are. There you go. You can see you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can
Yeah,
you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. No. You guys all are too deep for me, but I just wonder what time. When did she see those orbs? Is that daytime, nighttime?
Nighttime, like 8:30, between 8:30 and 9 at night.
Oh, okay. Huh. And where
Have you seen it like that out here?
Where does she live out? Or does she live in town?
Well, this is public, so I'm not going to give too much information.
Yeah, no, I don't want to know where she lives, but area.
Kind of like on the edge by there's a Mormon church down there, and there's like a water place and stuff,
So she
down
lives
there.
basically in town.
On the edge of it, yeah.
Okay. All right, anyway.
Have you seen stuff like that, Kathy, around too?
I told Deb about one time we were heading out towards Sholo and Concho, and we were kind of like in this valley, and I saw this metallic disc.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to think that I must be looking at the side of an airplane. I'm looking at the wing end of it. I'm trying to analyze it.
Rationalize it now.
Ready to say to my husband, hey, what's that? He says, what's that? And as soon as that happened, it kind of shrank up and disappeared.
Wow.
And So I said that had to be a UFO. And he's like, oh no, that was helicopter. I watched it in the rearview mirror, and that was all a helicopter.
No.
Like, okay.
You know,
Right.
Justine and Matt's parents had bought land out by Concho. What Concho is, it's like 10 miles from here, maybe. And there's a bunch of canyons and stuff. And that's where I saw that UFO crash. But he was with his mother and driving along, and they saw one of those like orb things or whatever down in one of the canyons. And it was like a whitish red, if I'm remembering correctly, orangish kind of, almost like what Jose had there. And he said it was about the size of a medium-sized house.
Yeah.
And what was interesting about that ship I saw crash, I would say that would be the size too, a medium-sized house.
You know, I searched UFOs on St. John's, and your story came up, first one.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
That was number one on MUFON for years.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I can't imagine you doing all that. Running out in the field.
Oh,
amazing.
When I see things, I follow them.
So was that Concho when you lived out?
Yeah, my 40-acre mistake. Yeah.
Was that actually in Concho?
Out in the hills, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Not in town. I was off grid. I was freaking out about where the world was headed. And so I was like, I have to live off grid and store my food and raise my crops and do all that.
And let me ask you something, Deborah. Then what?
Yeah, that's what I finally came to when I was like, I'm like, but then what am I going to do? I mean, if the world kind of implodes, then do I really want to live on canned foods in the desert? You know what I mean?
I was ordering.
Do I really want to live through that?
Yeah. Purification pills the other day, and if you get a 2-pack, you get 100, and I thought 100. And then what?
Yeah, right. And then what?
I can't afford a fancy thing, you know, a purification thing.
Oh, and it's hard. Kathy, just raise your hand if you want to talk. I muted you because I can't hear anything because of whatever the background.
Oh, yeah, you got some kind of weird background noise going on.
Yeah.
It's
and
really
so
coming from her computer.
Anything.
I think it might be coming from her computer itself because I think she's at a regular computer. Yeah. Or maybe the fan.
Okay, I'm going to unmute you now so you can say something and then.
Earphones on. My hearing aids.
Oh, maybe that's it. It could be interfering. It's possible.
Oh, could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not trying to be rude or mean. It's just that I can't hear anything when I. That's why I said muting you.
Yeah, it sounds like some kind of interference, like electrical interference. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be the head. It could be the hearing aids.
Sounds like a really loud hair dryer right next to you.
Yeah, and I've got the headphones so it doesn't echo as I'm doing this, and so,
right. So it's probably really loud.
Kathy, before I mute you, what did you think about those? In the did you see the beginning thing with Justine's orb and Jose's? What do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't have a clue. What was the original picture that she had? All I saw was the, Did she actually have a picture? Was it a video?
It was a video, and so I had to slow it down intensely to be able to even show that one video that you guys shot because it was faster than the other one. So the one in the beginning, I think I slowed it down by 15 times, and then I had to go through and enhance all. It was a lot of work. We'll just leave it at that. So it was 19 seconds. And so to be able to capture this stuff as it goes, I had to stretch it out to 28 minutes. That was as far as I could go. And then click, 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 click all the way through to take pictures as it went. So
you're very patient.
Yeah, I'm curious about Jose.
I don't know if I'm patient. I'm just very determined. If I want an answer, I'm just going to get it.
I want the truth.
Yep. All right. So, okay. So I'm going to mute you again.
Okay.
Okay. Kathy, I'm glad you were there. Poor thing, she probably thought her computer was breaking. I'm sitting here like God, muting and unmuting her.
I know.
But
Well, yeah.
any closing thoughts before we call it a night here?
One closing thought. Back to the whole goddess thing. You ever wonder why it's always the Virgin Mary who goes and talks to people?
Because Jesus is a guy and they don't talk.
No. It's always the Virgin Mary. I always think, it's really, again, back to the.
And then the other thing, though, if you look at these Jesus pictures, especially with the Catholic Church, how they've really made them feminine, kind of. Like this white guy, he had dark skin probably, and if he was a carpenter and stuff, he was probably kind of buff. You would think.
He might have been. I don't know. Hard to know.
Not like this white, pale, sickly kind of being that looks.
Well, maybe if he was on a cross for a while, he might have gotten.
Yeah, but not like in his life, he wouldn't look like that.
Who knows?
Especially if you take the Gospels at their word. Then, if he just like merges into a crowd and disappear, you can't look like, everybody else is brown skinned and everything else. Somebody like that would stick out like a sore thumb. There's no way.
True. Well, I think a lot of them are based on the Leonardo da Vinci Shroud of Turin thing. I mean, a lot, Shroud of Turin, there's a lot of people who theorize that Leonardo da Vinci's face actually on the Shroud of Turin. And that he used this powder residue thing. It's like an early form of photography to create that, which sounds like Leonardo da Vinci. He was kind of a prankster. Yeah. And he was kind of a heretic as well. So it kind of makes sense. But, you can tell by the shroud that there's like it looks like it's a cadaver body. And then there's another head put on it. It's like sort of a split. And it definitely looks kind of like, if you look at pictures of Leonardo, what he kind of looked like, his self-portraits. And it's sort of like, and then all of the pictures of Jesus kind of look a little bit like that. They look like an Italian guy with long hair.
Yeah.
Maybe that's right. Exactly.
So, to me, it's just kind of like that just doesn't even make any sense to me.
It doesn't. No.
I stood outside the door to the I think the cathedral in Turin is where it showed.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And I refused to pay $20.
Did you? You check it out.
I am not going in there.
Did you?
I'd rather look at an old petroglyph or these ancient things like out here.
Yeah.
Very inspiring.
They had the best collection of Egyptology outside of Cairo. In Turin, they have an archaeological museum. It's
the British Museum is the best.
No,
for that.
No, they say this one in Turin is even bigger.
I find that hard to believe because the English stole almost all of the Egyptian artifacts.
Did you see the
five
stories in the news?
Egyptology.
Yeah, no, there's a whole giant British museum. It's all Egyptology.
How
massive!
I love it.
Debating which country stole them.
No, I'm serious. The British. I think it is the British. It is the British Museum that has the most. I'm pretty certain. Yeah.
Did you guys see? Now, I'm not sure if it needs to be debunked or not. But apparently, there's some kind of big thing underneath. Kathy actually posted on the Cosmic Fold net that there's some kind of thing underneath the pyramid that they found that indicates that the Great Pyramid, that it has gone way down.
Into the earth.
And some people are speculating that it can actually conduct electricity. Others say that's a bunch of bull. Anyway, I was watching some of it, and then I just had too much to do to watch TV. So I'm going to try to find that documentary and chill tonight to see what it was that they were finding. And they still can't get in under the Sphinx. And I was thinking, Denise, remember we were talking about all the different aliens and the cat people? What's the Sphinx?
Well, it's a cat person,
it's a cat person. Yeah.
So I think that's connected to all of this somehow.
There is supposed to be some sort of great revelatory information in a hidden spot under the Sphinx, but it's not like there's not a key somewhere or a secret code. It's got to do with energetic ability. We will not be able to connect with it.
Isn't that a legend, or isn't that a legend about the Sphinx? Like you have to have.
It's been reinforced by a number of different people have gotten the same notion. Some from aliens and some from ancient archaeology, but they all have that moment of agreement where it's there. They don't know where. We're not going to be able to find it because it has been hidden on like a mystical level, an energetic
When
level.
I was in my maybe 18, and I never even thought about that kind of stuff. I mean, I was busy going to college and making a living and trying to,
we
function.
know what you were doing when you were 18.
And so I had this dream that was so real that I was like looking at the Sphinx and went down, and there's this book. I don't even know what it was. And I was like going through, and it was like golden or something. And I was like going through it, and it was like, and I woke up, it was like so real. I'm like, why would I dream that? It was very strange.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
While you were
there's
talking
something
about that, we just had huge thunder. We never get thunder.
Oh, that's cool.
And so, but then the other prophecy that, and I had never heard of this before, was that have you heard the one about the last pope?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Malachi.
just heard about that this week, about the last pope. Yeah, who is it? Malachi?
Malachi was the prophet of the popes.
Yeah.
The Pope.
And apparently there's only like one picture left, and it's for this one. And when he goes, it's like,
that brings me to what I was about to say before you started this whole thing. Was I just randomly, because I had to go get an MRI, and so I just randomly stumbled upon this thing on YouTube about, and you mentioned her like a while ago, Baba Vaga, who is
yes, and I'd never heard of her until recently.
I never heard of her till Ancient Aliens, and I saw this like little presentation on YouTube about some of her stuff that she was talking about, and it was like everything she was saying was I was like, God, that's exactly, like, she was right, and I've been saying the same thing. But the thing that was really interesting was she was saying this year in 2025 was on August 15th, randomly enough. Did you hear this one, Helen? That this is a turning point day that is going to be sort of like whether we go through the ascension kind of category or whether we go to darkness.
Yeah,
and that basically,
I didn't know the date.
It's exactly, she said, even the smallest little things that you decide that day will determine the outcome of which direction humanity goes. And she was saying that the other thing, going back to what you were saying about, what were you saying before this connected it, but I can't remember.
The energy
and
under
the pyramid,
Sphinx,
and
having to elevate,
and the
our
last
energy.
pope, all of this stuff.
The last pope. She said that's what it was. She said that there was going to be something found under the Arctic ice that was going to completely upend people's religious beliefs.
And didn't they find that? Or am I going through another?
No, not yet. No.
Oh, it's so weird.
Yeah.
I thought I was
You're in the
watching
wrong
it on the
time
news
zone.
last
Come back,
week.
Deborah,
I think
come
I'm in
back.
it the other timing. Oh, I
No.
honestly thought I was watching something about it on the news last week. And
There was some stuff
and
found
like
under
they're
what did you see?
now
What
I
did you
have to look it up. Because
No, there
of
was. Go ahead. You say what you heard or what you thought.
No, it was just like I just thought I saw it on like the news, and that because of the glaciers melting, that there's something, and they're going in there trying to find. I don't know. Maybe it didn't happen yet. It just. But that's what happens to me.
There was something found a couple of years ago under the ice, which was like.
No, this was like it's
Yeah.
like they were reporting that it just happened last week.
No,
and they're all
I didn't see that.
Okay, then I'm seeing something then. Because
Yeah, maybe you're having a premonition. I don't know, unless Kathy saw something too. I don't know, but I did not hear anything. But she says
that might be why remember I said something's coming and I don't know what. Maybe that was my answer.
Maybe so.
I could have swore I saw this on the news. Yeah.
So according to her prophecy, she said that they're going to find something under the ice, and this was going to be so powerful that, and she could. To be honest, I couldn't really I don't really know how to describe because the guy didn't do a very good job of really saying what she was saying, other than it was going to be this powerful thing that was going to upend people's belief systems and the religious systems. And it was going to be some kind of, maybe a technology was the feeling I had, that was also kind of, I think it was like an alien technology was the vibe I got, but I don't know. That's not what he said. And that basically all these world governments would be fighting over this thing that was found, and it was going to cause this, big problem between all these countries. And yeah. And so, and that there were two
North Pole?
Arctic. I think that's the South Pole, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's, Antarctic, or I think it's the Antarctic. Am I wrong? Maybe it's the Arctic.
Maybe that's why they're going after Greenland.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be Arctic.
That's what I think is going on.
Yeah,
and
maybe
this is like the other thing that I've been getting for whatever it's worth. So,
what were you been getting?
Jesus. I've been getting it big time that we have to really be careful of our thoughts right now. And do you know
toast? I thought it was a toast.
Foggy mirrors of Jim Bro.
She thinks like we do.
He doesn't appear tortillas. Yeah.
So, but anyway, this sense I have is that whatever is happening, and it's going to accelerate. It's like what we could think and talk about like 10 years ago, and it takes a long time before it manifests. It's not going like this.
Oh my God.
And so we have to be so careful about more thunder.
Oh my God. Yeah. Every dog in the neighborhood is freaking out.
Maybe it's not thunder. Maybe it's
thunder. Maybe Thunder Woman is coming through. We were just talking
maybe Thunder Woman is coming. Yeah, it's like a full circle kind of thing.
Invoking God here.
Yeah, no.
Y'all. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think there is something. There's a paradigm shift happening, and I think we all hope it was going to go the good way. But according to this thing, it wasn't so much about the political kind of stuff. It was, although there's a political component if this piece of alien technology is found and they're all fighting over it. But that it was basically, we are going to determine the future of where humanity goes. And the things that were said were like build community, use discernment. She talked about this whole thing, this period where people are so confused and they need to learn. And I was like, oh my, she's so, she was right on, she's very accurate. Yeah.
Well, wait till you hear this. I've talked to a couple of what I would consider scientist philosophers.
Yeah.
And getting the same message, they communicate and they have gotten the same message. And the message, very briefly, is that there is a struggle for control here that's a cosmic struggle. And our free will choices are going to determine the outcome, in a nutshell.
It's kind of similar to what she was saying. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Well, y'all.
I have something for you, Deborah. I looked this up because you said something that triggered this memory, and I had to look it up because I didn't remember it accurately. This is from, I believe, the greatest philosopher in the world, William Shakespeare. This is from Hamlet, and his conclusion: there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
Right. That's right. That's really true.
So true.
Very true. Yeah.
Kathy, thank you so much for popping in.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Kathy.
Sound thing going on there, but yeah, really good. Whoops, I keep hitting the wrong button down here. Okay. There you are.
I can't hear.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well,
all right. Well, you guys have a good night.
You too. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and thank
Deborah.
you, Denise and
Thank you,
Helen,
Deborah.
and
Yeah, and Helen.
to Justine and Matt. And God, I'm just so sorry that their video didn't come through. It's a bummer.
I
So-
know it sucks, but
Well,
maybe they'll
something
make
to
it.
look
hopefully
forward
we
to.
can get them in.
You know.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe we can
because they're
talk to
really
them.
nice people and
Yeah,
fun to talk with, and so hopefully they'll come on and
yeah, that'd be
so
good.
we can pick up the story and maybe pick up some other things along the road of where we're going right now on these. I can start digging up some prophecies and just see how some of this high strangeness might play into it. That would be an
Yeah, that's a
interesting
good
discussion.
idea. That'd be interesting. Yeah, we should all dig into that. Try to see if we can figure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
see if we can, and then bring it up. Maybe let's do that next
Yeah.
show.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Yeah, it's
Thank you
easy.
for
That
all
way I
the
don't
work.
have to sit there for 16 hours on a
Yeah,
video.
that's too much, dude. I don't know how you do that. You don't need to do that.
I don't want
Thanks
to
for
be.
doing
I'm
that.
interested in it. That's.
I know, I am too. I know, I get it, but that's a lot of work, though. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's all good. Well,
Yeah.
y'all, thanks again, and we'll see you
Thanks,
next week.
Deborah.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
See you later.
Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.